Friends, my today's topic is anti-diabetic agents. So first let us discuss the types of diabetes. So basically there are two types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, which is called insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, and it is generally observed in juveniles, and it is also called juvenile onsets. And the main cause of type 1 diabetes is insulin deficiency occur due to the destruction of the beta cell of the pancreas. Okay, so in type 1 diabetes insulin deficiency is occurred. In type 2 diabetes, which is called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, and which is called maturity onset kind of diabetes, and in these diabetes insulin resistance occur. Okay, so type 1, it is called insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, in which insulin's deficiencies occur due to the destruction of the beta cell of the pancreas. And in type 2 diabetes, which is called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, which is called maturity onset diabetes, in which insulin resistance is occur. Now let us discuss what is insulin. So basically it contains the 51 amino acid chain. It is arranged in two chain, chain A where 21 amino acids are there, and chain B which contain 30 amino acids. So by these way it contain total 51 amino acid, and this chain A and B both are connected by the 2 sulfur bridge, that means 2 sulfur atom. And insulin is basically synthesized from the proinsulin, which are having the 84 amino acids. So this is very important. Insulin generally it is made up of chain A and chain B. Chain A contain 21 amino acids, chain B contain 30 amino acids, and both are joined together by 2 sulfur bridge. Now let us discuss the classifications. So for type 1 diabetes, various insulin preparations are used. So it is again divided into the types of insulin and based on their action. So first is rapid acting insulins. So examples are Lispro, Aspart, and Glulicin. In Lispro, Humalog is a brand, Novalog is a brand of Aspart, and Epidra is a brand of Glulicins. Now, if you look at the onset of action is approximately 15 to 30 minutes in all these rapid acting insulin, and peak plasma concentration is achieved in between 30 to 90 minutes, and it keep long lasting till 3 to 5 hours. Okay, so rapid acting insulin cover the insulin needs for meals eaten at the same time as injections. Okay, so when you want to take a meals, before that you have to take rapid acting insulins. Next is short acting insulin, so which is called regular or novolin, and Velosulin, which is used in insulin pumps. Basically its acting onset of action is 30 minutes to 1 hour, and peak concentrations is achieved in between 2 to 5 hours, and long lasting till 5 to 8 hours in regular. And in Velosulin it is 2 to 3 years, and it is a short acting insulins cover the insulin needs for meals eaten within 30 to 60 minutes. Next is intermediate acting insulin, which is called NPH, and so it is called neutral protamine hagedron NPH insulin, and it is a crystalline suspension of the insulin with protamine and zinc, and it is providing an intermediate acting insulin with onset of action of 1 to 3 years. Okay, so NPH means neutral protamine hagedron, and which contain the protamine as well as the zinc. So intermediate acting insulin cover the insulin needs about half of the day or overnight, and this type of insulin is often combined with the rapid as well as the short acting types of the insulin. So it is of intermediate acting insulin NPH. Now long acting, so various example are insulin glargine, where Basaglar, Lantus, and Toujeo are the example brand name insulin determine, where Levemir is the example insulin degludec, where Tresiba is the example and its effect is generally observed between 1 to 2 hours, within 1 to 2 hours, and long lasting till 20 to 42 hours respectively. And long acting insulin cover the insulin need about one full day, and this type of insulin often combined with the rapid as well as the short acting insulin. And next class is pre-mix insulin like Humalin 70/30, Novolin 70/30, Novolog 70/30, Humulin 50/50, Humalog mix. So what is this 70 and 30? That means 70% human insulin isofen suspension and 30% human insulin injection, which is from rDNA origin. And what do you mean by premix? So premix insulin basically combine the intermediate acting insulin as well as the short acting insulin in one bottle or insulin pen. So it is a mixing of intermediate acting insulin and short acting insulin, which is called premix, and it is available in Humulin 70/30. So 70% it is intermediate acting, 30% short acting, same like Novolin, Novolog, Humulin, Humolog mix. So these all are the premix insulin preparations. Now rapid acting insulin, so it is taken about 15 minutes before the meal time. Short acting insulin, so it should be taken 30 to 60 minutes before the meal time. Intermediate insulin, it should be taken 1 hour prior to the meal time. And pre-mix insulin, it should be depend on the product between 10 minutes to 30 to 40 minutes before meal time. So this is how you should take a insulin before your meal. Next is drugs for type 2 diabetes. So first is sulfonylurea derivative. So why it is called sulfonylurea? So student, this is the structures of the urea, NHCONH, which is called urea, which is attached with the sulfonyl group, which is called sulfonylurea. Now, if you look at the various drugs comes under these categories, so it is again divided into the two class, first generation as well as the second generation. In first generation, say for example, tolbutamide. So as name indicate, butamide. So butane is there. Okay. So at R1 position, that means here there is a methyl group and here there is a butane. So it is called tolbutamine, and para hydroxy derivative is an active metabolite. That means this methyl group is hydroxylated. Next is chloropropamides. So as name indicate chloropropamides. So chlorine should be there. So here there is a chlorine and here there is a propamide. That means propane chain should be there. Okay. And its metabolite is again hydroxy derivatives. Next is acetohexamide. So acetyl group should be there. So this is acetyl group, and hexamide, hexa that means 6. So cyclohexyl group is there. Okay. So this is called acetohexamide. And last is tolazamide, where R position methyl group is there, and with terminal nitrogen of the urea group, azepine ring is attached. Okay. So this is how structures of first generation sulfonylurea derivatives looks like, and some important facts related to sulfonylurea derivatives, like all sulfonylurea derivative except glibenclamide, it is a second generation drug, cross the placenta and cause the hypoglycemia at the birth. That you have to remember. All sulfonylurea derivative except glibenclamide cross the placental barrier and cause the hypoglycemia at the birth. And common side effect in all these cases are stimulate the appetite, leukopenia, and photosensitivity. So these are the common side effect. These are the structures of the second generation drugs like glibenclamide. So this is a structure of the glibenclamide. So these points are common in all the first as well as the second generations sulfonylurea. So this is called sulfonylurea groups. So in glibenclamide, here there is a cyclohexane ring, and here there is a parachloro anisole kind of structure is there, which is attached with the amide linkage, and 4 hydroxy derivative is a metabolite. In glipizide, again it is same like glibenclamide, but here instead of this simple benzene ring, it having a pyrazine ring. Okay, so it is called pyrazine containing drug, and it also having a diuretic in accents. Next is gliclazide, which is called aza bicyclooctyl ring. So here it having a aza bicyclooctyl ring, it should be there. This is called sulfonyl urea moiety, and this is called aromatic ring. Okay, so this is the structure of the gliclazide. And third generation is glimepiride. It is a more potent than tolbutamide, and it forms a 6 inactive metabolites. And if we look at the mechanism of action of all sulfonyl urea derivative, so these kind of the drug exert their hypoglycemic effect, that means decrease the blood glucose level by stimulating the insulin secretion from the pancreatic beta cells. And basically these kind of the mechanism is done by to close the ATP sensitive potassium channel in beta cell plasma membrane, and that would be initiate the chain of the event which result into the insulin release. Okay, so this kind of the drug basically close the ATP sensitive potassium channel which is present in the beta cell of the plasma membrane, and that would lead to increase the insulin release, and this is a structure of the glimepiride. Next is non-sulfonyl urea derivative. So first drug is maglinide derivative which contain D-phenylalanine amino acids. So these things are very important for GPAT examinations. So maglinide derivative contain a D-phenylalanine amino acids. So drug are repaglinide and netiglinide. So these are the structure of the repaglinides as well as the netiglinides. So if you look at the mechanism, it is same like previous one. So both the drug lower the blood glucose level by stimulating the release of the insulin from the pancreas. So how it can be achieved? So it can be achieved by closing of ATP dependent potassium channel in the membrane of the beta cell, and ultimately this depolarize the beta cell and causes the opening of the voltage gated calcium channel. Okay, and once calcium channel open, then there should be influx of the calcium, and due to that induce the fusion of insulin containing vesicles with the cell membrane, and ultimately insulin secretion is occur. Okay, so almost it having a similar mechanism to sulfonyl urea kind of the derivatives. So this is maglinide derivative. Next is a biguanide derivative. So this is a structure of biguanides. General structure of the biguanides. The drugs are fenformin, metformin, buformin. So fenformin means ethyl phenyl group is attached at alkyl group. Metformin means dimethyl amine group is there. So MET means dimethyl. By this way you can remember. And Bu for butyl. So butyl group is there instead of R. So by this way you can remember the structures. So fenformin, that means phenyl group is there. Metformin, that means dimethylamine is there. Buformin means butyl is are there. And mechanism of action for biguanide derivatives are increase the glucose uptake and decrease the insulin resistance. Okay, and common side effect with biguanide derivatives are vitamin B12 deficiency and lactic acidosis. Next is alpha glucosidase inhibitors. So the drugs, let us discuss the drug first: acarbose, miglitol, and voglibose. So these acarbose are generally naturally occurring oligosaccharides. So where more than three sugar moieties are attached, so which is called oligosaccharides. Next is a miglitol. So this is a structure of miglitols. So it is a desoxynogiramycin derivative, and chemically it is a piperidine triol derivative. So this nucleus is called piperidine, which is attached with 3 hydroxy group, which is called piperidine triol derivative. So piperidine triol, and chemically it is a desoxynogiramycin derivative, and this is a voglibose. Okay. Now, what is the role of alpha glucosidase inhibitor? Okay, how acarbose, miglitol, and voglibose are act? So basically, all these alpha glucosidase inhibitors are basically kind of the saccharide, and that is act as a competitive inhibitor of the enzyme that are responsible to digest the carbohydrate. Okay, so basically these enzymes are convert or hydrolyze the oligosaccharide, trisaccharide and disaccharide to glucose and their monosaccharides. Okay, so what is the main role of this enzyme alpha glucosidase? So it is a membrane bound intestinal glucosidase enzyme which hydrolyzes the oligosaccharide, trisaccharide, disaccharide to glucose as well as the other monosaccharide in intestines. And apart from this alpha glucosidase enzyme, it there is a role of alpha amylase enzymes which hydrolyze the complex starch to oligosaccharide in lumen of the small intestines. So where various alpha glucosidase inhibitor like acarbose, voglibose and miglitol which inhibit these kind of the enzymes, and ultimately less glucose is absorbed because of the carbohydrate are not broken down into the glucose molecule. So carbohydrate or complex carbohydrate that cannot be converted into the glucose molecule or monosaccharides. So less glucose is available, so hence less glucose is absorbed in diabetic patient. And short term effect of these drug therapy to decrease the current blood glucose level, and it is on long term therapy effect is small reduction of HB1AC level. Okay, it is an indication of your next derivative is thiazolidine dione derivative. So this is called thiazolidine dione nuclease. Okay. Now the drugs are rosiglitazone, pioglitazone, proglitazones and siglitazones. So glitazones are the suffix which are present with thiazolidine dione derivatives as a anti-diabetic agents. And the mechanism, if we look, they activate the PPAR gamma, that means peroxisome profilatase activated receptor gamma, which is also called glitazone receptor as well as the type 2 nuclear receptor, and ultimately enhance the transcriptions of the insulin responsive gene and ultimately increase the insulin sensitivity. Side effects are myalgia as well as the mild anemia, and interactions are they inhibit the ketoconazole absorptions. Okay, so whenever you observe glitazone in a suffix, so it is all thiazolidine dione derivatives. Next class is DPP4 inhibitor, which is called gliptin. So in all drugs, the suffix is gliptin. So basically DPP4 inhibitor as well as the gliptin are the class of the oral hypoglycemic agent that block the enzyme dipeptidyl peptidase 4. Now what is role of this DPP4 enzyme? So this enzyme that increase the glucagon level, and as glucagon level increase that would responsible to rise in blood glucose level. When DPP4 inhibitors are act on reduce the glucagon level and ultimately reduce the blood glucose level. So the basic mechanism of DPP4 inhibitors are increase the incretin level, okay, due to by affecting the GLP-1, that is called glucagon like peptide 1, and gastric inhibitory poly peptides, and which ultimately inhibit the glucagon release, and which in turn to increase the insulin secretion and decrease the gastric emptying as well as the decrease the blood glucose level. Okay, so the main role of this enzyme is to increase the glucagon level, and as glucagon level is increased, ultimately increase the blood glucose level. But if we are designing a DPP4 enzyme inhibitor, so ultimately it decreases the glucagon level by increasing the incretin level, and which ultimately inhibit the glucagon release and increase the insulin secretion. So these are the drugs are available, vildagliptins. So basically it is a cyanopyrrolidine derivative which also having a, this is called adamantyl group. This is a saxagliptin. It is almost similar kind of the drug, but here cyanopyrrolidine, it is a fused with cyclopropane ring. Next is a allogliptin where amino piperidine ring is there. So this is called aminopyridine. Linagliptin, which having a methylquinazoline ring. So this is called methylquinazoline ring. Aminopyridine, again aminopyridine is there, as well as the purine nucleus, it should be there. Next is a sitagliptin, where triazopyrazine ring is there. So this is called triazopyrazine rings. And teneligliptin, while pyrazole ring is there. This is a pyrazole. This is a pyrazine. This is a pyrrolidine, and this is a thiazolidine. So these four heterocyclic ring are fused to attached together to give a structure of teneligliptin, and last is anagliptins. Another kind of the drugs like glucagon like peptide GLP-1 receptor agonist, which is also called GLP-1 receptor agonist, or called incretin mimetics, that increase the incretin level, ultimately decrease the glucagon synthesis, glucagon level, and increase the insulin sensitivity. So this is called GLP-1 receptor agonist or incretin mimetic drugs, and example are exenatides, liraglutides, albiglutides, and dulaglutides. So these all are the drug are called incretin mimetic, as well as the GLP-1 receptor agonist, which increase the incretin level and ultimately decrease the glucagon synthesis, and ultimately that would be leads to decrease the blood glucose level. And last class is called SGLT inhibitor, which is called sodium glucose co-transfer inhibitors. Okay. Now let us discuss what is role of sodium glucose co-transfers in diabetes. So basically it is a kind of the protein that preliminary available in the kidney and that play important role maintaining the glucose balance in the blood. So SGLT1 and SGLT2 are most common of the sodium glucose co-transfer, and among them SGLT2 is a major transport protein and promote the reabsorptions from the glomerular filtration of the glucose back into the circulations. Okay, so these SGLT2 proteins are reabsorb the glucose from the kidney and back that throw back the glucose into this blood circulation and ultimately increase the glucose level. Okay, so again 90% of the kidneys glucose are reabsorbed by SGLT2, and that is come back into the circulation and ultimately glucose uh, level in blood is increasing. Okay, so by inhibiting SGLT2, various glyphosins prevent the kidneys reuptake of the glucose from the glomerular filtrate and subsequently lower the glucose level in the blood and promote the excretion of the glucose in the urine. Okay, so various glyphosins are there like remogliflozin, dapagliflozins are there. So such kind of the SGL2 inhibitors are there which inhibiting the SGLT2 co-transfer pump, and glucose reabsorption is not taking place, and instead of glucose that is coming into the blood, it is directly excreted from the urine. Okay, which is called glucosuria. So these all are the drugs, serglifazone, remogliflozones. This is a dapagliflozone, sergliflozones. Another's are canagliflozone, ipragliflozones, tofogliflozones. So whenever you observe glyphosine, so these suffix are there. That means it is a SGLT2 inhibitor, sodium glucose co-transfer 2 inhibitors. So this is all from